Hello, my name is Amram Sudheer and I am undertaking this assignment to demonstrate my understanding, learning ability and clarity of communication regarding quality workflows in the life sciences industry. I am a computer science student from Mahavi Institute of Science and Technology. My focus today is showing how I can analyze a complex business process and explain it clearly, which is a vital skill for building and maintaining robust software systems. What is this task about? This assignment requires me to explore a specific quality management system QMS module within a supply chain operating system. The core objective is to explain seven critical quality processes ranging from a deviation management and CAPA to supplier management and product recalls using the context of active parametrical ingredients, APIs and raw materials. My presentation will cover the flow of each module, the rules involved, specific examples, and my own key learnings from analyzing the system. Let's begin by looking at the QMS models in detail. Deviation non-conformance is defined as any departure from an approved written procedure, actual process, system, facility, utility, or equipment that occurs during the receiving, manufacturing, testing, storage, packing, or distributing of the product. Unexpected event. It is an event that was not planned or pre-approved, unlike a planned deviation which is approved in advance for testing. It can happen at any point in the supply chain, from a supplier's failed raw material delivery to a mistake in the final documentation of API batch. The goal is to reaching the destination company targets or product quality. The standard operating procedures, SOPs and regulations, GMP, etc. that tell you how to manufacture, test and handle materials. The accident: when instructions are not followed, the company may fail to meet its target. Example: product contamination, regulatory penalties. The train out of track means the product will go out of track when they do not follow any instructions. This is the analogy for deviation, non-conformance, any departure from the approved, safe and controlled path. Receiving storage. Raw material is placed in the wrong temperature zone. Manufacturing. A machine parameter is set incorrectly during API production. Manufacturing has some process. This will be the flowchart of the manufacturing process. First they will send a raw materials, then production will begin, then product will delivery, then customers will purchase and utilize it, and it will went to disposal and recycling, and then the recycled material will go to raw materials. In process quality fixes during manufacturing. Deviation management: to identify, document and handle any unplanned change or error that occurs during a controlled manufacturing process. If a machine runs too hot during API's crystallization, or if a raw material is accidentally used from the wrong storage location, this module manages the immediate fallout. CAPA: corrective and preventive actions. To find the root cause of a problem and implement permanent systematic actions to stop it from happening again. If a specific raw material consistently clogs a filter, a CAPA forces the team to find a replacement filter, corrective and update the maintenance schedule. Preventive. In product quality handling, finished product issues. Product complaints: to formally record and investigate any issue reported by a customer. Report the final product. Example: efficiency, appearance, packaging. If a customer complains that the drug tablets are crumbling, the investigation traces back to see if a quality issue with the initial API or an excipient raw material was the root cause. Recall management: to move a batch of product from the market, pharmacies, distributors, etc. because it poses a safety risk or is non-compliant. If a contamination in an API is only discovered after the finished drug is shipped, this module manages the process of safety retrieving and destroying the affected batches. Adverse event reporting. To document and report to regulatory bodies like the FDA when a patient experiences a harmful side effect from the product. The QMS records the event prompting an investigation to see if a process failure linked simple purpose API raw material example to a specific raw material or manufacturing step contributed to the patient's harm. OMS management controlling external partners. Supplier management flowchart will be supplier management, supplier information, supplier life cycle, supplier relationship, then supplier risk, com- compliance, supplier diversity, supplier performance. To assess, select, approve, and continuously monitor all companies that provide you with critical goods and services like raw materials or APIs. Before purchasing a new batch of critical solvent raw material, this module ensures the supplier's quality system are audited and approved, minimizing the risk of contamination before even it arrives. Example flows. Example 1 API product complaint CAP is a basic closed loop. Scenario Pharmacy reports that several vials of the final drug product batch 1234 contain visible dark particular matter traced back to the API. Step action and module principle. Step 1 will be complaint deviation. QA officer logs the product complaint, initiates an investigation and quarantines the finished batch 1234 inventory. Containment. Stop the damage from spreading. Step 2 will be investigation RCA and the action will be the investigation confirms the particulate is trace metal contamination that occurred at the API supplier site. And the principle will be root cause finding the ultimate source of the quality failure. Step 3 will be CAPA initiation. The QA officer opens a CAPA to address the system failure in the supply chain. Principle will be systematic action. Don't just fix the batch, fix the system that allowed the batch to be created. And the step 4 will be prevention. The CAPA requires the suppliers to install a new filters, corrective action, and requires your company to update its supplier management criteria to require more frequent third-party testing of that API lot for metal content prevention action. Prevention ensures the problem cannot happen again. Example 2 Raw material repeated supplier failure supplier management. Scenario These three separate shipments of a critical solvent raw material have failed incoming quality checks due to having too much water content over a period of 2 months. Step 1 will be detection and tracking, and action will be the QA officer tracks all three failures in the supplier management module. This repeated pattern causes the supplier's quality score to drop significantly. Principle trending use historical data to identify chronic failures. Step 2 will be enforcing action, and the action will be a CAPA is open directed at the suppliers. The QA officer informs the supplier they are on probation and must provide an audit report detailing how they fixed their storage conditions. Principle will be leverage use the supplier agreement to enforce quality compliance. Risk Step 3 will be risk mitigation. The preventive action in the CAPA require purchasing team to find a secondary qualified supplier for the critical raw material immediately. Principle will be contingency. Do not rely on a single failing supply source. SME roles. Production manager, the doer and the first responder. Responsibility will be initial reporting. Action will be identifies and immediately reports any deviation or issue on the production floor. Principle will be accountability owns the manufacturing process and is the first to spot errors. Containment. Implement the immediate short-term fix, example quarantining the non-conforming raw material. Principle will be control stops potential damage from spreading while waiting for QA's formal instruction. Responsibility will be action execution. Action needed implements the corrective and preventive action CAPS assigned to the production floor. Example supervising, retraining or updating local machine logs. Principle will be ownership. Ensures the long-term systematic fix is carried out correctly by the operating staff. Next role will be quality executive, QA officer, the regulator and owner of the QMS. Responsibility risk assessment and impact. Action will be evaluates every reported deviation and sets the formal classification. Decides if a batch is safe to release. Principle production disposition the only authorized to make decisions impacting product safety and efficiency. Root cause and CAPA ownership leads the investigation, determines the true root cause, and is the only person who can formally open and approve its CAPA plan. Principle will be system integrity, ensures the underlying flaw, the why is fixed, not just the symptom. Supplier oversight approves and monitors API and raw material suppliers using the supplier management module. Compliance enforces that eternal partners meet the same regulatory standards as the company. Learning reflection. What was challenging? The biggest initial challenge was distinguishing the boundary between deviation management and CAPA. I initially viewed them as two separate tools to fix problems. I had to learn that they are actually two distinct steps in a single, continuously closed loop system. It took visualizing the process in a swimlane diagram to truly understand the mandatory hand-off between the production manager's immediate fix and the QA officer's systemic investigation. The swimlane diagram will be this will be the swimlane diagram. Deviation to CAPA flow. First will be incident discovery and logging. Next step will be immediate containment. Third step will be risk assessment and classification. Fourth step will be root cause analysis RCA. Fifth step will be CAPA approval. Sixth step will be CAPA implementation. Seventh and last step will be effectiveness check and closure. Coming back to PDF, what was learned? The most critical insight gained was about the risk-based control to supplier management. The recurring supplier contamination scenario made it clear that QMS data is used proactively. It's not enough to simply reject a bad match. The system must automatically lower the supplier's score and demand systematic CAPA from them. This taught me that QMS is not just a documentation tool, but a business enforcement tool that controls the quality of the entire supply chain. Wow. Problem scenarios. Scenario 1. Machine parameter was not recorded correctly during production. QMS models used how deviation management helps. Deviation management CAPA. This is a failure of compliance documentation, not necessarily product quality. Deviation management is used to handle it. Immediate action. The production manager tries to verify the parameter from secondary logs or witness risk assessment. The QA officer confirms the actual parameter value was acceptable, clarifying the issue as a minor documentation deviation. Third will be disposition. The batch is released with a documented justification. And the second QML model will be linked to prevention CAPA. If the root cause analysis shows the error was due to systematic flaw, the batch record from is poorly designed or the SOP is confusing. The QA officer opens a minor CAPA. The CAPA might require revising the SOP or installing an electronic logging tool to prevent human transcription errors in the future. And the second scenario will be supplier repeatedly delivers contaminated raw materials. QMS models used. How CAPA helps. Deviation management, CAPA supplier management. CAPA forces a systematic fix. Since the contamination is repeated, the QA officer bypasses simple deviation closure and initiates a major CAPA. This requires a thorough root cause analysis RCA of the supplier's site and processes. And the second QML model will be role flow and communication. Production manager flags the thought failed batch non-conformance. QA officer initiates the CAPA and uses the supplier management module to place the supplier on a probation. The QA officer communicates the mandatory corrective actions, example new packaging validated, to the supplier and requires an on-site audit for verification. If the supplier fails, the QA officer authorizes disqualification, requiring the production manager to source the raw material elsewhere. And the summary will be of QMS. This assignment explores the quality management system QMS modules within a life sciences supply chain OS, focusing on the quality control of active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, and raw materials. The core objective is to explain the interconnected workflows that ensure product safety, compliance, and continuous improvement. The biggest learning point was the difference between a deviation, the symptom, and CAPA, the systematic cure. The QMS operates as a closed loop system where every failure must drive an enforceable improvement. The structure risk based approach ensures that the QMS is not just a compliance requirement but the ultimate tool for the continuous quality improvement and safeguarding patient well being. In my closing, my journey through the QMS platform demonstrated that a robust quality management system relies on three pillars: compliance, control, and continuous improvement. We saw how the strict step-by-step process for deviation and CAPA ensure the ensure that every failure, whether a minor recording mistake or a major API contamination, leads to a permanent fix. This structured approach, enforced by the independent QA officer, is the backbone that maintains product safety, ensures regulatory compliance, and ultimately drives the integrity of the entire life sciences supply chain. Thank you for giving this opportunity.